Hello, so I'm actually going to talk about my review for the content enhancement routine. And first things first, I'm going to go ahead and tell you how I actually stuck to, well, in this case, I used the framing routine and how I stuck to that. So while I was teaching the lesson, I literally just drew out the framing routine on at a whiteboard behind me. I literally just drew out the framing routine. And then I did so I just drew out the routine, and then I did the I do by like writing in under the first part legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government. And so so I just wrote that in for main ideas, and then for the you do part, I had them giving more like specific examples of that and details, like what makes up the legislative, judicial, and executive branches of government. And so I sort of led students to that. For example, with the legislative branch of government, I asked questions that sort of got them to tell me that the Senate, United States Senate, was a part of the legislative branch of government, and same thing with the House of Representatives. And then I prompted them to tell me the actual function, right? Saying like, so, like, pretty much just that. So like, so what does the legislative branch of government actually do? Like, what is their function in the United States government? And then they were able to tell me that they are the ones who actually make the laws. And like I said, like this was in this fictional scenario, this was supposed to be like something they'd already learned. So I ran a bit fast with that, but yeah, I'll talk about that more later. And then in the we do, I had sections in the framing routine where I just had them like discuss. So under the about part and under the very bottom part, we're supposed to like review and like get the takeaway of it. We discussed about that, specifically about checks and balances at the end. So some adjustments I would make going off of discussions for students that didn't understand the content as much as I wanted them to, is I would focus more on the discussion, specifically the discussion about the checks and balances concept of the three branches of government. Because if you have a really, at least in my opinion, if you have a good understanding about how checks and balances work, that will lead you to be able to figure out how the rest of the government works. So if we're dealing with like the executive branch of government, for instance, well, maybe you don't know exactly who makes up the executive branch of government or who's in it, but you do know what they do. You do know they actually are the ones who enforce the laws. So if you know they enforce the laws, then it's easy to be like, well, if they enforce the laws, like who's the big enforcer of our government? Oh yeah, that's the president. And so by knowing what their function is in regards to the other branches of the government, in regards to the checks and balances, that will help you figure out the rest of the picture. So that's why I would like to discuss that more. And going off of that, things I would do differently is I would just have more time for discussions, specifically about checks and balances, because not only is it going to help students who like are having a hard time and are struggling with the concept of the three branches of government, but it's also just going to help students who even have a really good grasp of it, because now they have another reference to check themselves with. Now they can say, yeah, that makes sense because this is how this branch of government checks this branch of government. So that's what I'd like to discuss. I would have liked to discuss that more. And then I would have liked when I was trying to have them like find actual discussions, I would try to have them find actual like examples and leading them to those in the you do part. I would have liked to give them less examples and prompt them less, so they could like get it out of their own knowledge more. But also, with that being said, I think I should have started it and prompted it more and just told them like it's okay to be wrong. Like it's not a big deal. That we're all here to learn. And that way, I think I could have gotten more hands to raise and more students to participate if they know, like, hey, you know what, I can answer this wrong and not be embarrassed about it because that's okay. That's what we're here for. After all, in this fictional scenario, I was like making them a study guide. So that is my review for the content enhancement routine. Thank you very much.